All right. Director Jim Brown,
I'm here.
Director Greta Connie. Don't see her yet. Director Alban Smith.
Here.
Director Scott Ignacio is excused. He had a family emergency and wasn't able to attend today. Director John Haschak.
Here.
Director Tasha Alstrand.
Here.
Thank you. And Chair Jurdy.
Here.
Thank you.
Okay, well, we have resolution making continued findings pursuant to Assembly Bill 361 for these Zoom meetings. Would someone like to make a motion to adopt the resolution?
I so move.
Second.
Do we have any
I'm sorry,
public-
the second was Director Brown. Thank you.
Do we have any public comment? Okay, not seeing it. Can we have roll call?
Yes, Director Brown.
Yes.
Director Alban Smith.
Yes.
Director Haschak.
Yes.
And we haven't convened yet as the PAC, so Chair Jurdy.
Yes.
Motion carries. I think it's my turn now to address the annual election of officers. So according to MCOG's bylaws, a chair and a vice chair are elected annually by the board. And typically it's the first meeting of the calendar year. So the officers serving in 2021 have been Chair Dan Jurdy and Vice Chair Scott Ignacio. So typically we just follow Robert's Rules of Order. There's not an adopted procedure, but we're open to any other process you'd like to do. So I can go ahead with the way it's outlined in my staff report if you like. All right, I'll go ahead. So what I will ask for are nominations for each office. It doesn't require a second. And then once we have nominees, then I'd like a motion and a second and vote on each nominee. So to begin, I would like to open nominations for the office of chair.
I will nominate Dan Jurdy.
I second that.
Okay. Are there any other nominations for the office of chair? Hearing none, can we call that a motion then? We had Director Brown and Director Alban Smith. So I'll do a quick roll call on that one. Or you know what, we could do a slate. So, but there is a motion on the table. Shall I just carry on? We have to do everything by roll call, so I'm just trying to simplify. There's hardly any of you here, so I'll go ahead and do the quick roll call then. All right, so the motion is to re-elect Director Dan Jurdy to the office of chair. Director Brown.
Yes.
Alban Smith.
Yes.
Director Haschak.
Yes.
And Director Chair Jurdy. You can vote for yourself, I think, and you're muted, so I can't hear you.
Thank you
Is
for,
it-
thank you.
Dan, thanks for volunteering. I appreciate that, pal. Out of paper.
All right, the motion carries. Thank you very much. Moving on, I would like to open nominations to the office of vice chair. Are
I'll
there any?
nominate Scott Ignacio as vice
Okay.
chair.
I second that.
Okay.
Okay. All right, are there any other nominations or volunteers for the office of vice chair? Hearing none, I will go ahead and assume that is a motion, and that was from Director Haschak and seconded by Alban Smith. All right, I will call the roll. Director Brown.
Yes.
Director Alban Smith.
Yes.
Director Haschak.
Yes.
Director Jurdy.
Yes.
And the motion carries.
That's what happens when you don't show up.
You may get yourself volunteered for something. So we now have a re-elected Dan Jurdy as chair and Scott Ignacio as vice chair. Congratulations. All right, so I think that concludes that item.
All right, well, now we're going to convene as the Regional Transportation Planning Agency, recess, and reconvene as the Policy Advisory Committee with Caltrans. Next on our agenda is the consent calendar, minutes of December 6th, and appointments to the Social Services Transportation Advisory Committee. Would someone like to make a motion to approve the consent calendar?
So moved.
Second.
Do we have any public comments on the consent calendar? Not seeing any. Can we have a roll call?
All right, that's items 6 and 7, the minutes and appointments to Social Services Transportation Advisory Council. Director Brown,
Yes.
Director Alvin Smith,
Yes.
Director Hasjack,
Yes.
and we have convened as a PAC, so I will call Director Alstron from Caltrans.
Yes.
And Chair Jurdy.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carries.
Okay, well, that takes us to public expression on non-agenda items. Do we have any members of the public that would like to comment on items not on today's agenda?
And I'll note that we did not receive any public expression prior to the meeting either. We received a couple requests to participate in the meeting, but no written comment.
Not seeing anyone raising their hands to be in comment. So I guess we'll go on to the regular agenda, which is item number 9. Next would be our Technical Advisory Committee recommendations of November 17th.
All right.
Good afternoon. Can you hear me?
Yes. Zoom is
Oh, thank
working
you.
for you now, Loretta?
It is. Thank
Okay.
you. Nafili, did you have something before I start?
No, I was just going to mention that this item was a continuation of the item from the December meeting.
Yes, thank you. Good afternoon, board members. As Nafili mentioned, this public hearing is a legally continued public hearing from our December board meeting. And as you recall, at that meeting, staff presented a thorough staff report. And prior to the December meeting in November, you were presented a PowerPoint presentation on the Regional Transportation Plan and Active Transportation Plan. So just by way of review, during discussion of this item at the last meeting, some board members requested some minor edits or some miscellaneous edits be made to the rail element regarding California Western Railroad. So I went back and reviewed the video to make sure I caught all of those. And we were also requested to verify a statement that had been in the plan for the past several updates. It was a statement that said PUC regulations for passenger train service apply to the California Western Railroad skunk train, even though it primarily operates excursion rail service. So I did connect directly with staff from the California PUC, and that statement has been verified as being currently remaining to be accurate. So the rail element has been revised for your consideration with the requested edits. I showed those edits on an excerpt markup page for easy review, so you should have that attached to your staff report. In addition, the entire final proposed plan has been posted on MCOG's website, along with being posted with your packets. In addition, staff has had more time to consider the comments made by Mr. Stack at the last meeting and the comments that we received the morning of the last meeting. We reviewed the comments that were received during plan development regarding the comments from Mr. Stack, and we discussed them with the County Department of Transportation staff, and we have included some proposed revisions. It's not everything that Mr. Stack requested, but we had a follow-up phone call with him to let him know what we were proposing. So in summary, the changes that have been made to this February final draft in the county maintained roads and city streets element, we've added a bullet point on page 49 under the public comment section for the county, describing the safety and speeding concerns on Old Stage Road and the absence of an accessible pedestrian and bicycle facilities to Bower Park and Ocean Ridge Park. That was a request from Mr. Spack. And just, I also wanted to mention that we had previously included some of the public input from Mr. Spack, but it was in the ATP section. So we've basically expanded on what we've included. Also in the active transportation element, we have added, after discussing this with County Department of Transportation staff, we have added a long-range project in the action plan on page 90 under the county section to add a project for bike and ped access to Bower Park and Ocean Ridge Park. And although this was requested to be a short-range project, the county felt it was more appropriate and would only support it being included as a long-range project. And then finally, well, not finally, I'm sorry, I have a couple more items, but in regard to Mr. Spack's comments, we have added a project to the county's long-range project list in Appendix J for the Walala Neighborhood Park Access Improvement Project. And then on a separate item, we had a phone conversation with Chair Jurdy in follow-up to a meeting he had with legislators regarding the federal infrastructure bill, and decided that we needed to add a little bit of language to ensure that future electric vehicle charging infrastructure projects and alternative fuel type projects to make sure they qualify for any funding that may come down from the new federal funding bill, as well as other funding sources that may come up. We thought we needed to add something to ensure they'd be available. So we've added something in the state highways element that includes installation of electric vehicles, charging, and alternative fueling infrastructure projects. And that's been added in page 40 of the short range action plan. We've added a similar paragraph under the county maintained roads and city streets element under on pages 54 and 55, a new section for region-wide improvements. And then also in Appendix J, we've added the project to the county's short range list to include EV charging and alternative fuel infrastructure projects. So that's a summary of the changes. There are not very many that have been made since the December final version. That's a summary of what is in this February final version. So the proposed revisions are shown on the excerpted pages I showed you, so you could see them just for easy review without having to go to the entire document. And again, the full document's been posted on the website. As previously reported, the TAC recommended approval of the draft plan and negative declaration at their November meeting. And at this board meeting, we would like you to consider adoption of the negative declaration and then by adopting a resolution to adopt the plan. So it should be noted that the public hearing that was opened on December 6th remains open. You do not have to reopen that. And we should also note that the findings of proper notice that were made in December still stand. You do not have to make that finding again. So, Mr. Chairman, I believe we're at the point in the staff report that you can receive public comments or open it up to the board. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Loretta. Do we have any public comments as part of this public hearing?
Yes, I'd like to offer.
Yeah, go ahead, Mr. Zach.
Thank you, Chairman. First, mention my appreciation to the MCOG and DOT staff. Thank you very much for your willingness to look at the recommendations related to the Walala Neighborhood Parks access. I think you did the best you could under constrained circumstances, and I'm really grateful to each of you, Loretta and Nafili, Janet. Thank you so much for having a conversation with me and for, I think, doing the best that could be done with this type of project in creating a placeholder where it could potentially be further considered if the funds an opportunity to present themselves. So thank you so much. And I just ask that if you have a moment to convey my thanks to Alicia Meyer, who met with us and provided a lot of information and perspective about the county's program, and to Mr. Dashiell, who participated in a rather lengthy correspondence project with me. Anyway, long story short, members of the board, thank you so much for your consideration. I appreciate the adjustments that have been made in the proposed RTP and ATP. Compliments to staff and to you for the efforts, and I hope that you find it acceptable and approvable today.
All right, well, thank you. Do we have any other public comments? If we have no other public comments, we'll close the public hearing at 1:52 and go back to the board members. And I also want to thank Nafili and Loretta for making some additional last minute changes to just ensure that the plan has, I think, appropriate language in there about the electric charging stations. We already had language in there, but I think this kind of strengthens it as a project, which is what you need to be eligible to compete for a state or federal transportation grant. Any board member questions, comments?
Well, I'll just add that it seems like these changes reflect what we were talking about, and I think it makes it a better document. So I'd be up for making a motion to approve the 2 recommendations that.
Pardon me. I'm sorry. I would like to note one item. It recently came to our attention that one of the maps in the appendix, the map for Willits, is not showing the Willits bypass. It's still showing 101 going through a Willits. So that was an oversight, and that map will be corrected and posted online in the appendix. Thank you. Excuse the interruption.
Thank you. We don't want to leave the bypass out.
Okay, so I think I hear a motion to adopt the RTP with the amendments as presented, as well as an updated map of Willits.
And the I think in order we need to do the neg deck first. Number 5 on the.
Yeah, so I would make a motion to approve the negative declaration.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Can we have roll call?
Yes, Director Brown,
Yes.
Director Connie's not here. Director Alban Smith,
Yes.
Director Haschak,
Yes.
Director Alstrand,
Yes.
and Chair Jurdy.
Yes.
Motion carries. Thank you.
And I'd also like to make a recommendation to adopt the resolution numbered M 2022 blank, adopting the 2022 Mendocino County Regional Transportation Plan and Active Transportation Plan.
Second.
As amended. Seeing confirmation. Okay, can we have roll call?
Director Brown,
Yes.
Director Alban Smith,
Yes.
Director Haschak,
Yes.
Director Alstrand,
Yes.
Chair Jurdy.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Motion carries.
Okay, well, I think that then takes us over to our next public hearing, which is the Unmet transit needs for fiscal year 21-22.
Okay, let me get my paperwork in order here. Excuse me. I will take that one. All right. This is the annual Unmet Transit Needs public hearing. And I will start by reporting the proofs of publication that we received. In your packet, you'll find that we have a proof of publication from the Ukiah Daily Journal that was published a full 30 days in advance of the hearing as required. So we only need one newspaper of general circulation 30 days in advance. In addition, we had the Independent Coast Observer on the same day, January 7th. We had the Willits Weekly published on the 13th, and the Fort Bragg Advocate News also on the 13th. So we were in 4 newspapers. Also, the hearing was posted on our website and emailed to 2 lists of subscribers and interested stakeholders. So we think these actions more than meet the requirement.
With Janet, with that, would it be appropriate at this time for someone to make a motion that
Yes.
finding that
It's-
proper notice was established?
Yes, I don't know that's strictly necessary, but it's been customary with this board that we have a motion on that. So you'll go by my report. I have copies of these proofs of publication, but I only put the one in the packet there.
Well, I'll move that we make a finding that a proper notice has been made.
Okay,
Second.
thank you very
Okay, great.
much.
We got a motion and a second. Can we have a roll call?
Quick roll call, Director Brown,
Yes.
Director Alban Smith,
Yes.
Director Aschak,
Yes.
Director Alstrand,
Yes.
and Chair Jurdy.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carries. So I will give my report. You have my written report in
So
your
yeah,
packet.
so Janet, with that, should we open the public hearing now or wait till your report?
I think it's good to open the hearing.
Okay, so 158, we're going to open the public hearing on this item, and okay, so
Great. Thank
Janet,
you very
proceed.
much. All right. So you have my written staff report, and I think most of you have been through this procedure before. We conduct this process under the Transportation Development Act, which is something that MCOG administers. So, I can go into some of these things about why we do this. We're not strictly required to do it, but we do follow this process, and mainly because it satisfies the TDA requirement for a citizen participation process. So we have had a workshop of the Social Services Transportation Advisory Council in January. And that's a standing committee of MCOG. And you have in your packet the list of the needs that came out of that meeting. And I'd like to put those on the record. So the SS TAC, as we call it for short, met on January 12th. And you see they have listed 5 needs that they identified. They also endorsed 12 needs that came from MTA's outreach and needs that came to them from the public, for a total of 17 recommended unmet transit needs. So we also may hear from the public today and see if there are any other needs. I do have a letter in the packet that we've included. This was from the Westport Municipal Advisory Council, and it was a lovely letter about the regional transportation plan, but they also did identify the need to restore some level of public transit between Fort Bragg and Westport. So we thought this would be a good opportunity to add that to the testimony today. And other than that, I think we can hear from the public, and then I'll discuss the action that we recommend.
Okay, well, thank you. So do we have any public comment at today's hearing? Mr. Spack?
Thank you. Dave Schbach from Willella. So I apologize, I didn't identify myself in the previous comment. Very briefly, I note that the unmet transit needs, in addition to service delivery, also has an item having to do with a transit center and transit hub. So in that vein of bus stops, as you're all very well aware, Caltrans continues its considerations of the Wallala Downtown Streetscape Master Plan, and there have been a variety of alternatives developed, some of which place bus stops on State Route 1 in the downtown area and others which don't. But for the record, I'd like to just offer my recommendation that this unmet transit needs version make note that by far the safest opportunity and transit supportive opportunity for a bus stop in either northbound or southbound directions, regardless of transit type, whether it's a school bus or the MTA regular service or others, would be off highway. And presently that is served by a stop in the Sunstrom Market, where a person can find shelter, can do incidental shopping, can get some food, use a restroom while waiting for a bus or waiting for a pickup for the last mile home. Forcing a stop into the state route in downtown Wallala not only consumes a constrained amount of area, but also forces people into what at this point, and likely for some time, fairly hostile mix of traffic and poor visibility and no shelter or convenience. So for the record then, please, if the issue does come up, and perhaps this is a place to document it, consider off-highway bus stop in downtown Wallala. Thank you.
Okay.
Duly noted.
Do we have any other suggestions or requests for analysis by MTA? Okay, I'm not seeing any comments. Are you seeing any comments on your end?
No,
No.
I haven't seen anything on the meeting. I have checked right up until the meeting on our email and have not seen any new correspondence come in.
Okay. Well, with
All
that, then let's close the public hearing at 2:03. And maybe we could just ask Jacob at MTA, what's kind of the time frame for MTA to report, analyze these different suggestions and then report back on the requests for service?
Janet, there's sort of a formula, correct?
Well, we would be looking for that analysis for the Transit Productivity Committee meeting, which is typically held in April. And then it goes on to the SS TAC one more time, usually in April or May. And then it comes back to the board for a finding at the June budget meeting. So you would have the next couple of months to work on that analysis.
With Dan, to answer your question, with budget and everything else, probably the end of March on our end.
Okay, well, thanks, Jacob.
All right, well, the action requested today is to determine whether any of the testimony received appears to be an unmet transit need according to the definitions that are there in your packet adopted by MCOG, pending that further analysis by MTA. So today you don't need to look at each need and see if they meet the definition or anything like that. You only need to decide whether any of the needs appear to qualify under MCOG's adopted definitions. And so staff's recommendation is that we do believe there are unmet needs and that the testimony heard includes unmet transit needs that appear to qualify under MCOG's adopted definitions, and to direct those needs to Mendocino Transit Authority for analysis and for further review and recommendations by the Transit Productivity Committee and Social Services Transportation Advisory Council. That is staff's recommendation.
Director Brown?
Based on staff's recommendation, I will move that action.
Second.
Thank you.
And for clarification, would that include the request for service, the regional center down in Wallala Transit Center?
For consideration purposes, yes.
Yes, so then that list that we will intend to forward on would have the list of 17 needs from the SS TAC list that they're in your packet, the need from the Westport letter, and the need heard today by from Mr. Speck.
That'd be included in the motion.
Thank you. Shall I call the roll?
Go ahead, yeah.
All right, Director Brown,
Yes.
Director Alban Smith,
Yes.
Director Hasjack,
Yes.
Director Alstrand,
Yes.
and Chair Jurdy.
Yes.
And the motion carries. And then one more note, this was alluded to, but we have one additional recommendation that came from the SS TAC group that I'd like to report. And it doesn't come under the definition of an unmet transit needs in terms of service routes and things like that. So they can give you all kinds of other transportation recommendations. So we do have this additional one, which is to develop a Ukiah area transit center or transit hub. So that's for your advisement and can be discussed at any time. You know, Loretta may have, or Nafili, some information about, or maybe perhaps Jacob, there, our MTA general manager, about plans for that project. I think this group wanted to encourage efforts in that direction. Is there any more information that we'd like to?
Sure, I'll just mention it. It's something that we've talked to MTA about. You know, there's no centrally located transit hub in the Ukiah area. We think it's something that could be of great benefit to link the various routes and other services. So we're hoping to be able to either through an MCOG, a future MCOG project, or an MTA planning project through Caltrans planning grant, be able to study options for a Ukiah area transit hub at some point in the future. So Jacob may want to say something else about that, but that's the Reader's Digest version of that.
And that's about where we're at right now. Caltrans this last week had their intercity bus planning meeting. A number of us were in attendance. We learned that they've started to design the intercity bus hubs as kind of a train route, linking all Northern California communities together. Ukiah was identified on that plan as being one of the major hubs. So that was a large step in this process. So I look forward to working with MCOG on developing a plan and trying to figure out where we're going to get our funding here pretty shortly and get this off the planning and into reality.
Okay.
I think that's all we have to report for item 10.
Okay, great. All right, well, then that takes us to our next item, 11, which is the TAC recommendations for First Amendment of the Regional Transportation Plan Improvement Program.
Good afternoon. So in December, the board approved the 2022 Regional Transportation Improvement Program. One of the projects included in that is the City of Fort Bragg South Main Street Bicycle and Pedestrian Access Project. Shortly after adoption of the RTIP, city staff and Caltrans reached out to us, letting us know that they've been in discussions about this project because not only does the city have a project along State Route 1 between Ocean View Drive and Cypress Street, so does Caltrans, and it's a similar style project. And so the two agencies have been coordinating, and during their meetings, they determined that it would be in the best interest for Caltrans to become the implementing agency of the city's project. So to do that, the city had to submit a request to us to change the implementing agency. And so one of the things that they want to do in addition to that also, well, they being Caltrans now, is to push out the funds for construction from 22-23 to 23-24. So we brought this before the TAC in January and explained the reasoning why. This reason why Caltrans wants to take it over. And the TAC approved the recommendation to amend the RTIP. And so that's what's before you now. So are there any questions?
Not seeing any questions this time. Are there any public comments in this agenda item?
Not seeing any.
Okay. Would someone like to make a motion?
I'll move approval of the First Amendment to the 2022 Regional Transportation Improvement Program.
I'll second that.
Thanks. We have a motion and a second.
All right, calling roll, Director Brown,
Yes.
Director Alban Smith,
Yes.
Director Haschak,
Yes.
Director Alstrand,
Yes.
and Chair Jurdy.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay.
So, Chair Jurdy, I'm sorry to interrupt. The next item on the agenda, I think that we may need to take things out of order. We are expecting Stephen Coleman from Redwood Coast Energy Authority to be present and give the presentation. He had a conflict and wasn't going to be able to join until 2:30. We told him, sure, that would be no problem because we had several agenda items before his, but you guys have moved through things pretty quickly. So I think if we can just skip number 12 and then come back to it when Stephen is able to join us.
Great. So let's go to 13, which is annual appointments to standing committees. We have the Executive Committee, the Transit Productivity Committee, and the California Association of Council of Governments. I guess I could summarize. So the Executive Committee is made up of the chair, the vice chair, and a third board member. Director Alban Smith has been on the Executive Committee. And the Transit Productivity Committee is made up of 2 board members to go over issues with MTA and their budget. And last year that was myself and Director Brown. And then CalCog is our state association, and Director Alban Smith has been the voting delegate, and Director Haschak has been the alternate. Any thoughts on those assignments?
What are you looking for us to say?
Are people willing to continue on in those capacities? Are they interested in changing? Or
Yeah, I'm happy to stay on it. I enjoy this and getting good feedback from the community on this.
Looks good.
Director Brown, are you able to be on the Transit Productivity Committee with your time?
I have a ball doing that. It's a great fun.
Okay. Okay. Well, could we just have a motion to continue with the existing appointments?
I'll make that motion.
Second.
It looks, Janet, if you're trying to talk, you're on mute. Oh, it looks like Janet's having some audio trouble.
I'm
Okay.
sorry.
There we go.
Yes, I'm sorry about that. I was just going to suggest a slate of the above numbers.
Okay, yeah, I think
we have
we do have that motion.
Yes.
Okay, I see that now. All right, we'll call that roll. Director Brown,
Yes.
Director Alban Smith,
Yes.
Director Haschak,
Yes.
Director Alstrand,
Yes.
and Chair Jurdy.
Yes.
Okay, that all the appointments remain the same this year.
Well, why don't we go on to reports, and we can go back to item 12.
Oh, I just want to put in a quick reminder. I will need to call an executive committee meeting in late February towards the end of the month, and that will be for budget development. And that is the one time we really need to meet, and we might not meet again until necessary after that, but that is the one meeting a year that we've got to do. So just a reminder, I'll be in touch.
Okay. Maybe now we could go to reports. Tasha, could you give us an update with Caltrans Projects?
Yeah, so I had worked with Janet to include a public notice for the Hopland ADA project in the agenda package, but we had some staffing issues and some turnover, so that meeting will be delayed. We're just waiting on the environmental document. So we're going to be retracting that public notice and working with MCOG and Hopland Municipal Advisory Committee to reschedule that meeting. The Clean California program closed on February 1st, and we are working furiously this week actually on evaluating applications. So it's just super quick, and hoping to make announcements, I believe, March 1st on that. So that's all I have today.
Thanks. Any questions for Caltrans?
I've got one additional comment about Clean California. So the applications that Tasha was referring to were for the local agency applications. However, Caltrans is planning to move forward with a couple of Caltrans implemented projects in Mendocino County, and one, at least, I think these are final enough to discuss them, although they are still in development. But one in the first year will be in Boonville, and so Caltrans will be doing some community outreach for that. And then in the second year of the program, a project in the Coppola downtown area.
Thank you for clarifying that.
Okay. All right. Well, thanks. Jacob, any updates from MTA?
I have no update at this time.
North Coast Rail Authority?
Yeah, we had a meeting on January 24th. It was, there were some closed session items, and also it could be our last meeting as NCRA, before it converts to the Great Redwood Trail Authority.
And Director Hashak, in terms of the membership of the Great Redwood Trail board, do you know at this time who would be on that board?
Yeah, it's going to be the same as for NCRA. Okay. There was discussion about having a more like a group of 5, but it turns out we're going with the same format.
Okay, thanks. Okay, well, and we have MCOG's summary of meetings. Anything there you want to highlight?
Nothing to highlight, but we can answer questions if there are any.
By the way, I'll just ask, do we have any public comment on any of these reports?
Not seeing any.
All right, then we're on to it. MCOG administrative staff, status of the Coppola project.
Yes, so at the last meeting, I gave a staff report right before we adjourned the meeting, I think, on some problems that we were having with the project and concerns that we may not be able to certify right of way in time for allocation of the construction funds at the January CTC meeting. I am very happy to report that we were able to certify right of way. It was really a huge effort in the couple weeks leading up to the CTC meeting on behalf of our right of way consultant, and James really did a lot. Caltrans right-of-way staff at the headquarters level and at District 1 all really went above and beyond to make sure that happened. So we were able to do that, and the construction funding for the project has been allocated. So we still have work to do before we're ready to go to construction, but that was a huge milestone. So I'm really pleased to be able to report that.
Okay, thank you, Nabila. And I think at your last meeting, you said that the estimated timeframe for the project is still a little unclear because there's still some other steps to take place, and it has to go out to bid. But what was your estimation about when the project might at least commence?
So we're still hopeful that we'll be able to begin construction in this upcoming construction season. We're thinking maybe around April to advertise the project.
Okay, thanks. Director Hashak?
I'd just like to say thank you to Nafili and James for attending the Round Valley area MAC meetings, keeping the people informed, and they're certainly excited that this is moving forward after the previous meeting, which was pretty depressing. So anyway, people were motivated. I think that there was some action there, and they're ready to, be very helpful in whatever way they can.
Yes, and I want to express my appreciation to the community. They, a month ago or 2 months ago now, when we were not sure if we would make it, they reached out and asked how they could show their support for the project and submitted letters of support. And so that was really appreciated. Fortunately, we thought we might have to ask for more time, and we didn't. So that was great. And then one other note on that, actually relating to what Tasha mentioned earlier regarding the Clean California program, there has been a local grant application from the Coppola community. I believe the Water District is actually acting as the implementing agency to do some benches in the area as a public art installation. I think their idea was to do mosaic benches, and so they're hoping to include a couple of those benches within the trail project. So that'll be a nice addition to that project.
All right, well, thank you. Okay, and 2022 is the 50th anniversary of MCOG, hard to believe.
Isn't it? We noticed that MCOG was established in 1972. So here we are 50 years later, and just had a couple of ideas about it. Certainly aren't recommending putting on any kind of big gala event or anything like
No
that.
cake and ice cream?
Maybe things will change by the end of the year, but right now we're not doing things like that. But we did think, perhaps throughout the year we could, put out some highlights, little education about some of the things that have gone on before our time too. We have minutes going back to the beginning, so it'd be interesting to do a little look back and just report things that have happened over the years and things that have changed, and maybe put something up on our website or get the information out there, and would be kind of educational. So we thought of that, and probably our logo could use a little refreshing, and we thought about looking into that. So kind of a little birthday present for MCOG.
So Janet and Loretta, I'm guessing you've been with MCOG the longest of the people who are there. My basic summary when I talk to people about MCOG, I say, well, up until 1998, my understanding, it principally helped with planning projects, but had no significant money to help fund projects. And then when SB 45 passed with Clinton Kopp, it suddenly received a significant share of state transportation dollars to help implement projects. And and so it really grew in its scope of what it could do. And so I'm kind of curious if that was roughly accurate in describing MCOG. If you could kind of go through and look at the projects that it's participated in the funding of, but obviously earlier projects there may not have been much funding, but still may have helped to plan projects that either got the attention of a local government agency or Caltrans to say, yeah, this looks like a viable project. Let's proceed with it.
Yeah, SB 45 came along just after I started, and that gave 75% of the programming authority to the regions for what you just adopted last month, the RTIP, the Regional Transportation Improvement Program, and just amended today. That used to all be under state purview, but that's what that law did. It gave each regional authority a lot more say in how the money is spent in our own regions.
Okay.
And it seems like we get busier every year. I don't know. There's just more and more to do as time goes on. So
Yes, we have continued to evolve, and I think we will continue to evolve. So yeah, so we'll be celebrating all year.
All right.
Okay,
Maybe you should change your background to, celebrating 50 years of MCOG or something.
Yeah.
Good idea.
Maybe some foil seals or we'll see. Open to ideas on that. I just wanted to call it to your attention. It's early yet in the year, so we will definitely put something together. I had one miscellaneous. I had taken off the finance test. I really didn't have time to put together a written report, but I wanted to just let you know where we are financially. The fiscal audit is in progress, the annual audit for fiscal year 2021. And for the current year, 21-22, revenues are remaining high. They're still up. They are 7.5% above the budget estimate for this time in the year. And that the first quarter that came in this year was about 5.6% above the same quarter a year ago actuals. And finally, for the upcoming year 22-23, as I mentioned, we'll be starting budget development this month. And so we will report back to the board here after the executive committee meets. And that will continue on into June. So that's about all I had, unless there are any questions. I will say, though, that the budget estimate tends to be conservative. This year, it's about 4.5 million, but last fiscal year, we had revenues of 5 million. So they are running high while the estimate stays pretty conservative.
All right, and I've got just one thing to say under miscellaneous. I just wanted to mention, since we approved the RTP earlier in this meeting, but I wanted just to take a moment to say thank you to Loretta and James and Lexi and all the staff that worked on that. It is one of the primary, it is our main transportation planning document that sort of guides everything else, and it's one of the biggest in-house projects that we do, and it's been a lot of work. So everybody's done a great job, and I know we'll be glad to have that taken care of for the next 4 years.
Well, thanks. And our next meeting is Monday, March 7th. Okay.
Yes. And we do, it looks like Stephen Coleman from RCEA has joined us. So I don't know if you want to continue with reports or go back to number 12 now and then finish reports.
Yeah, I'd like to go to number 12. Yeah, so we're going to go back to our regional energy network. Well, I would actually say it's our climate ad hoc committee, but which is recommending that we sign a memorandum of understanding with Lake County and the Redwood Regional Energy Network to join their rural regional energy network. And Stephen, could you maybe, or I'm not sure who's going to lead this off.
Sure. I'll just give a brief introduction and then I'll hand it over to Stephen. So you do have my staff report in the packet, but this effort started several months ago when the MCOG board expressed an interest in looking into options for a regional role in climate protection and reducing the region's carbon footprint. So at the November meeting, the MCOG board appointed, at the November meeting, the MCOG board recommended that the ad hoc committee that was appointed for this purpose work with staff to look into options for participating in an existing or creating a new regional energy network. And so following that direction, we started doing some research, and in that process discovered that Humboldt County through Redwood Coast Energy Authority was in that process of developing a new REN already, the rural REN, which includes, in addition to RCEA, several other counties and multi-county organizations. We were very fortunate that they extended to us the opportunity to participate in that effort. Even though they were very late in development, they were at the end stages of developing their plan for that rural regional energy network. So because it was at the end stage of development, the opportunity for us is to initially participate in that as a subcontractor. And then eventually we would work toward becoming full members of the rural REN. Lake County, the Lake Area Planning Council is doing the same thing, and we'll be considering this item as well. So the ad hoc committee met January 21st and received a presentation from Stephen and other representatives of the rural REN. And sorry about that. Sorry about that. So we had a presentation from Rural REN about the programs that it offers, and then the opportunity to participate as a subcontractor, and the MOU that would approve that. The ad hoc committee did recommend approval of that MOU, and so that is what is before you today for action. However, before we take any action, we will have the presentation from Stephen. And so this will be an opportunity for board members to learn a little bit more about the programs that would be part of that REN. So with that, I will turn it over to Stephen. Thank you for making time for us today.
Oh, my pleasure. Thank you for having me. It's very nice to join virtually from afar to come talk with you. Although, Nephili, I think you covered just about everything. I don't know if you left me much to cover. You did a really good job of explaining it all. But I do have the presentation queued up, and this is the same one I believe the ad hoc committee saw, maybe with a few minor edits. So I can see, yes, it looks like I'm able to share my screen. And I will run through this and be happy to answer to the best of my ability any questions that you might have. Feel free to stop me during it too, if you prefer. So again, this is all about our process of developing what we're calling a rural regional energy network, because that just flows right off the tongue. And so some of the background, and as Nephili was mentioning, back in November of last year, both MCOG and Lake APC reached out to us, RCEA, to explore the formation of a regional energy network, at which point we let them know, oh, that's very good timing. We're in the midst of developing a REN with multiple other partners to cover rural regions of California. And I'll get into a little bit why that decision was made. And so some of the advantages of a REN are that we're able to launch new programs to bring energy efficiency incentives and technical support to previously underserved communities. We're able to design innovative programs without being restricted by some of the same metrics as other energy efficiency programs, so we can be more innovative in trying to reach harder to reach customers. And as probably a lot of you are aware from your own energy bills, rural regions of California suffer from a high energy cost to income ratio and have traditionally not received the same level of service in energy efficiency programs have had more urban areas. And that's for many different reasons, not necessarily because they don't like us, but just it's harder to serve us and less cost effective to serve us. And the system is kind of skewed against us in that way. And so here's a map of what the proposed rural REN would cover. A big swath of the eastern part of the state and into the valley and central coast, and of course the north coast up here, Humboldt, and with Mendocino and Lake counties as a recent addition. And this is a listing of the 6 partners. And so you can see it's covering 31 counties, over 7 million people, 66 tribes. DAC is disadvantaged communities is an acronym that comes up a lot. And so really trying to cover a wide swath of California, of the rural regions. And I don't know what I was thinking when I put this, incredibly wordy slide in, but other than that, it's in your packet information and you can read it all later at your leisure if you're interested, but mostly wanting to highlight our mission statement up top, that we're really wanting to leverage rural regional collaboration and promote pragmatic responses, trusted local relationships, and community needs. So really finding what works for rural communities and the unique needs that rural communities have. And so it's going to be a 5-year budget starting in 2023 through 2027, covering 6 partners and 7 programs. And it's going to come to about $96 million. Redwood Coast Energy Authority, ourselves, are going to act as the program administrator. So that means we're handling all the reporting and administrative functions of the REN for all of the partnership. And MCOG and Lake APC will have the opportunity initially to participate in all 7 programs as a subcontractor to RCEA. So these programs are divided into 2 categories, those focused on rural equity and market support, which is also called non-resource programs. And these are programs to serve public agencies, such as, I guess, most of you are board members of, and also including school districts, fire stations, tribal governments, transportation authorities, all sorts of different public agencies. A residential program targeting low to moderate income, raising energy awareness, and providing energy efficiency audits. Workforce education and training with the new green economy and seeing like this is where a lot of the job growth is happening around the world and in California in particular, making sure that we're training up local residents and local contractors to be prepared to fill these jobs. A codes and standards program to help local jurisdictions understand and enforce energy-related building codes. And also this will set up a hotline for contractors to be able to call and get information on codes and code compliance. And a finance program, which should be very exciting, to offer zero interest loans of many types, gap loans, micro loans, to help push energy efficiency projects forward. And then on the resource side, and this is, resource is what provides rebates or direct install programs, focusing on filling unmet needs from other utility and statewide programs. So really filling in the gaps where the utility programs and other state programs aren't meeting our needs here. And it'll be based mostly on direct to customer rebates, as well as some direct install options. And it will be offered, of that territory, it's only going to be offered in the North Coast and the Sierra regions to begin with. So some of the benefits for yourselves to be joining in on this. One, Nafili mentioned that this started a couple months ago. No, it started a couple years ago for us in doing the background and planning. And it's been a long process of research and writing and prep for this. And so you're coming in at, like in the red zone in football terms, this close to the end zone after we like marched across the field. So, and that, for launching these energy efficiency programs, you'll be able to collaborate with 6 experienced energy program implementers. The initial budget is providing for increased staff capacity and programmatic incentives and the loan seed fund. And so we're not asking for any funds from your area. We're writing into the budget funds for your area to grow into this. And both RCEA and the REN leadership team recognize that Lake APC and MCOG should become full REN partners and not act as, for a long time, as subcontractors to RCEA. Frankly, we're a small agency. We have no desire to try and implement programs in 2 more counties in addition to Humboldt. And I mean, this is just the path forward that makes the most sense. But we're trying to file this business plan this month. There wasn't the time to do the paperwork necessary to make that happen prior to the filing. So the next steps that we're looking for are letters of support from local jurisdictions, executing the memorandum of understanding that we're talking about in order to, when we file, to have that memorialized, that there's an agreement that RCA will be taking Lake and Mendocino counties under the territory through the agencies of MCOG and Lake APC. The final business plan filing is March 4th, 2002. And upon approval, with the stars aligning, everything going right, we'll begin operations in January of 2023. So that was probably a lot of information for those of you who hadn't seen this presentation a few times. So again, happy to take any questions or any comments that you would like. Thanks.
Yeah, and I'll just add one thing. In the last slide, Stephen mentioned letters of support. So I do want to say that we, based on the direction we received from the MCOG board in December, we have reached out to all of our member agencies for letters of support through our MCOG representatives. And so we have received we've received those letters from 3 out of the 5 agencies.
And probably in time, we'll get over the rest.
Yes, I believe so.
Sometimes it takes a couple reminders, right?
Yes. And Stephen, do want to thank you for the leadership that you guys have been providing up in Humboldt County, and it just it was a great opportunity for us to be able to connect with you and your agency and kind of bring the services that you're bringing into Humboldt County into Mendocino County. I think this is a terrific opportunity. Do we have any public comments on this agenda item?
I do see a hand raised.
Eileen?
Yes. Wow, is this exciting? It's the whole reason I've tuned in today, and it's my first MCOG meeting, so thank you. I'm thrilled that Redwood Coast Energy Authority has done so much and is now including us. What are these letters of support from jurisdictions? Might they be from local community organizations? Or is that not necessary?
So I'll start, but I might ask Stephen to add on. So the priority for the letters of support would be from the county and the cities, but I understand that that doesn't mean that we're limited to those, and that we could also accept letters of support from community-based organizations. Stephen, is that correct?
That is correct. And I think probably, I don't know if you're a part of a community-based organization. I think right now we haven't done as much outreach, especially outside of some of our immediate areas, to all of the community organizations. And part of that, frankly, has just been a time consideration, the amount of time it would take to explain what this process is to everybody. But yeah, we'd be happy for any support that's offered.
Great. And I was interested in the energy efficiency incentives that tech support. What we're, maybe I'm speaking out of turn here, but what we're struggling with in Mendocino County are charging stations and having the funds for that and trying to figure out how to do that. Is that something that you could offer? Not necessarily, well, I don't know about the funds, but tech support.
So that, and I'm not sure how your meetings generally work, if I should just be answering questions.
Please go ahead, yes.
Okay, yeah. Unfortunately, the way California is set up with its energy efficiency funding, there is a division between transportation funding and more traditional energy efficiency and electrification funding. Most people see that as changing and evolving over the coming years and becoming a little more intertwined. So ourselves, as an agency, RCA, we operate a network of charging stations within Humboldt County and have helped jurisdictions apply for funding. And actually, that's something where this would be applicable, that we would be able to provide technical support for an agency or a city or like a fire station to research and apply for funding, but we wouldn't be offering direct funding for charging stations or any kind of electrification of transportation through this program.
So
but it does help build the capacity also to have that in place then to go after, because there are state funding for this, and a lot of people just miss it because they don't have anyone to write those grants.
Great. Thank you. Thank you for that answer or your answers. So
just on that point, so Stephen, I know your agency does a broad number of things, so it could be that you have employees working on things that you may or may not be aware of everything. But for example, right now the state is making grants available through, let's say it's called it's the Clean Transportation Program, Rural Electrification charging grants for charging stations. And the state had a webinar, and I did see there was, I think it was, is it Leah Perez who was in the meeting that we were in? She was listed as one of the attendees at the meeting.
Okay.
And so, so someone from your agency may be hearing from the County of Mendocino staff about the question is whether or not, if you're already thinking of applying for that grant, because there's 1.6 million set aside for rural Northern California, 1.6 for central rural California, and 1.6 for southern rural California. And the question that the county has is if you guys were thinking of participating in a application like what we're talking about today, it might be advantageous to just be a part of a multi-county application. And with the County of Mendocino has some sites that are county-owned sites that we could make available and be willing to come up with some cash match for the project. So anyway, so again, you might not be directly involved in that, but your agency is probably going to be hearing from County of Mendocino staff on that.
Okay, yeah, and I would be happy to direct that inquiry appropriately. If you want to reach out to me, or if you mentioned Lexi, she would be appropriate too, but
Okay. But it's just an example of the kind of partnership that we can have with, our northern neighbors.
exactly. And like I said, I'm one who's advocating for there to be more crossover between transportation and energy efficiency. I think it's only a natural fit. But right now there's still that division and the way the funds are allocated.
Okay. Any board questions or comments? Did we have any other public comments on this agenda item?
Not seeing any additional comments.
Okay. Well, we do have a MOU on our agenda. Perhaps someone would like to make a motion.
So I'm prepared to move the recommended action to approve the resolution.
Second,
Okay, all right, got a motion and a second. Can we have a roll call?
Yes, Director Brown,
Yes.
Director Alvin Smith,
Yes.
Director Haschak,
yes.
Director Alstrand,
Yes.
and Chair Judy.
Yes.
The motion carries.
Okay, well,
All right,
thanks a
well,
lot.
thank you very much.
Right.
Look forward to the collaboration.
Yes, thank you. And all the letters that we have, and then we'll be in contact about executing this, getting the executed MOU to you. So thank you, Stephen.
Chair, can I speak real quick?
Yeah, go ahead.
Nafili, the letter from the city of Ukiah is basically in the mail. You should
Okay.
get it within the next couple of days.
Great, thank you so much.
All right, thank you.
Okay, all right, well, then we will go on with our reports. And I think our next grouping of reports are from the planning division, planning staff.
Thank you. I have only one report. Well, I thought I would have something to report to you on our procurement process for the mobility solutions study that we're doing. It's a feasibility study, mobility solutions for rural communities of inland Mendocino County. It's a grant we were awarded by Caltrans. We are in the procurement process, which I had hoped to be complete to report the results, but I'm sorry, that's not complete, so I don't have anything to report, but hopefully next meeting. Thank you.
Thanks, Laura.
That's all I have.
Okay, any questions? Any public comment on the planning staff?
Not seeing any.
Okay. Well, that would take us to MCOG directors reports. Well, I think we've all been busy with meetings on multiple topics. I'm just happy to see, that as we were saying earlier about MCOG's history, that MCOG keeps evolving and taking on new community priorities. Okay. All right. Well, then I don't know if there's anything to announce on CalCog. Is there? Right. Well,
I
then
do want to mention before we adjourn, though, we do still need to go back to 14 and ratify action.
Oh, you're right. Okay. So we're going to recess as the Policy Advisory Committee and reconvene as Regional Transportation Planning Agency. Do we have a motion to ratify the action of the Policy Advisory Committee?
So moved.
Second,
We have roll call.
Yes, Director Brown,
Yes.
Director Alvin Smith,
Yes.
Director Haschak,
yes.
and Chair Judy.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. Well, then with that, we are adjourned at 2:56.
Right. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you all.